So here's a more up-close and personal look at the PMC DB1 Golds. They're a set of bookshelf speakers made by PMC Audio, a British audio company. And yeah, these speakers originally retailed for $1,500 US, so quite expensive. But PMC is well renowned in the space. Their history is actually derived from a lot of the BBC designs. So like the BBC, the BBC made a lot of interesting small monitors. So the LS35A, I think, is probably one of the most famous, and a lot of speaker companies like PMC actually derived a lot of their designs from like Spendor, Tannoy, Rogers, Harbith, yeah, Graham Audio. These companies, ATC as well. Yeah, there's a lot of speaker companies that derive their designs from the legendary BBC LS35A design, and yeah, I think the PMC Audio DB1 Golds is kind of like not directly like that design, but it's definitely a descendant of that type of design. And PMC Audio is a company especially renowned for being used in a lot of studio settings. So basically a lot of mixers, engineers, professional musicians, they've been used in a lot of different just studio productions. So yeah, a lot of studio engineers use them. So I think that's how they became really, really famous, I think. Well, I wouldn't say they're like a super mainstream speaker company, but at least in the world of professionals, yeah, they're fairly well known. But for consumers, maybe some audiophiles might know of them, but they're not super mainstream for consumers. Anyways, the DB1 Golds, what I have to say that these are a pretty nice pair of compact speakers. So they're really meant to be used as near field monitors, and really, I mean, they are derived from what PMC uses in a lot of their recording studios. So yeah, they're pretty small size, reasonably compact, not that heavy, but they give a lot of sound for what they are. So this being as compact as it is, I would say that the sound it gives off is fairly impressive for the size, and they really do pack a lot of bass, given how small it is, and that's due to their transmission line design. Actually, they're one of the few speaker companies using transmission line design. So just to go over the specs here. So for the low frequencies, there is a doped 140mm cast alloy chassis. This is the woofer basically for the low frequencies. So yeah, got a 140mm driver right there. And then for the high frequencies, the tweeter, you get a 27mm fabric soft dome tweeter. So yeah, that's the specs of the different drive units. And frequency response is 50 Hz to 25 kHz, 8 ohm impedance, and 87 decibel sensitivity. It only weighs 10 pounds each, so like I said, fairly compact speakers. They're really good for desktop speakers. That's where I used them as my main desktop speakers for pretty much over a year now, actually. Yeah, these were my main desktop speakers for over a year, and mainly due to their small size. They're reasonably compact, they're not that heavy, and they give off a pretty big sound for what they are. And if you look at the back, all right, so these are individually handmade in the UK. Supposedly they're limited edition. I mean, they're like individually numbered, right? So they got serial numbers on them. It says limited edition model celebrating over 25 years of professional heritage. D1 Gold, handmade in Britain, and it uses the ATL design. So ATL is a PMC proprietary active transmission line design. It says 1.5 meters in length. So what active transmission line means is like this is a transmission line design speaker, which is not very common actually for consumer speakers. Generally most consumer speakers, they have like a bass reflex port, right? This little hole at the back to push out air, and that's how they get their bass. But for the PMCs, they do a little bit differently. The transmission line design, basically, you see the soft foam padding right here. Essentially, they have like a long, narrow like path inside the speaker. Like they have a pathway inside the speaker that's padded with foam to eliminate certain frequencies, basically. And they can do this to effectively extend the bass output of this speaker. So yeah, PMC designed in such a way, transmission line designs take a lot of effort to design, but if done well, then they can actually output a lot of bass for their size, which is what these guys do. So yeah, inside the speaker, there's like a passageway where you have different foam lined at different parts, and yeah, they design it in such a way that the foam will absorb certain frequencies while leaving other frequencies intact. Now basically it's to extend the bass more. So yeah, they say a 1.5 meter, 4.92 foot effective active transmission length. So yeah, I guess they managed to fit somehow 1.5 meters worth of yeah, worth of passageways in here to extend the bass response, which is really cool. And also they have 2 terminals each, so if you want to buy wire or buy amp these speakers, you can, because they have 2 sets of terminals each. So yeah, overall this is a pretty nice looking speaker. Very well built, of course. It's handmade in the UK. Of course, looks wise, doesn't look like anything too flashy or anything. Yeah, it's not going to catch your eye like a Klipsch does, but you know, this is what happens when you like handmade some of these cabinets in the, you know, in the UK and stuff like that, where a lot of these companies like Spendor and Harbeth, and the Magnete Acoustics actually, a lot of these UK companies, if they handmade it in the UK, they don't actually go for anything too fancy. They don't try to catch your eye or anything like that. Like some of the more mainstream speaker companies like KEF or Bowers & Wilkins, Monitor Audio, or Klipsch, you know, like they'll try to catch your eye with a lot of interesting, cool looking designs and stuff like that. But for these BBC derived companies, they're just fine with just making these, like, you know, handmade cabinets that just well built MDF, you know, nothing like, no really fancy materials or anything like that, basic materials, walnut and stuff like that. So yeah, they stick to more traditional materials and design. So yeah, it doesn't look anything too fancy. I mean, look at these PMCs. They look like just like a monitor, right? Like a recording studio monitor. They don't look like anything too special, but I will say that the sound that comes out of these speakers is really nice for their size. So overall, I think these speakers are pretty nice, and I have a few videos demonstrating, you know, the sound of the PMCs, so you guys can check them out. So yeah, and that's it, guys. Just you guys can check out the sound of these speakers, but overall I think the PMC DB1 Golds are very, very nice speakers for their size. Now, are they worth the price? I think if you can find a pair used online, it's pretty nice, but I wouldn't pay like full price for these because they are quite expensive. You do have the extra tax because they're handmade in the UK in limited edition, and the transmission line design, of course, makes it more expensive as well. But I think if you can find these guys used online, then it's definitely a good deal. So that's it. That's the PMC DB1 Golds. Thanks for watching.